No job is perfect, and there's things that go on behind the scenes that people like me don't always want you to see. But today, I'm going to share with you the dirty, honest, unforgiving truth about being a guitar-playing, content-making influencer. So I reached out to you guys to ask you what you really wanted to know, and a common question went like this, coming from Kareem Ball: how much money do I make? So there's a long answer and a short answer here. I'm not going to dodge the question. I'm going to give you real numbers, but it's complicated. So the short answer is I personally see between 40 and 50,000 US dollars a year before taxes. But here's the long answer, buckle up. Okay, so my business is set up as a corporation in Canada, which means that I get a better tax rate than if I just paid everything out into my personal accounts. From that corporation, my wife and myself take a small salary, and then anytime we have like surprise housing expenses, I take out a dividend and pay taxes on that. The bulk of my leisure spending would be like guitar stuff, and that would all be a business expense. It's also pretty inexpensive to live in the middle of Canada. And the idea is we'll keep as much as we can in that corporation and just continue to draw a salary from that as this business goes up and down throughout the years. And so then the question is, well, how much money does the business bring in? And it's honestly all over the map. The best years were around when COVID hit. If you looked at just those years, you'd think that I'm extremely well off. But then if you were to look at like a year and a half ago, things weren't going great. And if you were just to look at that, you would say that I am quite not well off. And the nature of this business is there are some major ups and downs. It's a roller coaster. If someone were to sit down with me, and I've done this before with my accountant, and say, how much do you think you're gonna bring in next year? I honestly have no idea. My whole family's income comes from this thing, and there's a lot of other expenses that you guys don't see. Stuff like domain names, camera gear, management fees, stuff like this. And that's why it's been so important to me to keep as much saved as possible to be able to weather the ups and downs of the whole thing. Now, I'll let you know that I've taken 10 lessons from the Samurai Guitar Dojo and packaged them together in a blues, soloing, and rhythm techniques course. It's normally $40, but if you use the link in the description, you're gonna get it for only $7 and you'll have access to it forever. If you've never looked at the blues, we look at building the 12-bar blues progression from the ground up, as well as ways to embellish and fancy it up. And of course, blues soloing, which is so important because it makes up the backdrop for pretty much all guitar soloing. We look at using double stops over each chord, combining major and minor pentatonic scales, as well as bringing in blue notes. And my goal with this stuff is to not just show you how to play what I'm doing, but rather teach you new tools that you can then draw on when you're creating your own music. You can get that special low price when you use the link in the description, and I'll also let you know if you want to join us for weekly lessons over the Samurai Guitar Dojo. I'll put up a link to that as well. Anyways, enough of that, let's get back to it. Okay, so Baked Beans 0.jpg asks if I ever get hate and how do I deal with that? I'm sure I do. I always have. After I reached a certain point, the hate started to come in. And it's one of those things where if you're not getting people who don't agree with what you do, you're probably not reaching a ton of people. But I mean, I'm 10 years into this whole thing, and I've learned how to have a healthy relationship with both the negativity as well as the positivity. Because here's the thing, if a lot of people are saying really nice things about you, that can kind of mess with your head in a certain way. But also, all it's gonna take is one horrible comment to completely silence all the good stuff. So for me, I believe in what I do. I'm always proud of what I put out there into the world. I don't feel like I need people telling me that it's good anymore. And I also acknowledge that there are some people who are just out there with like hate in their heart that I don't have time for. So for the most part, outside of like the first maybe hour or so of a video getting released, I don't really even read the comments. Because in that first little bit, like I'm reaching the people who have been here for a while, the people who care about what I do, who probably share similar ideas. And I know if there's any constructive feedback, I'm gonna find it then. Whereas if a video gets pushed out to a broader audience, that's when the other stuff comes in that I just don't really have time for anymore. I'm just a guy who's messing around with guitars in a studio, and if that upsets somebody so much that they have to leave some really nasty comment about it, I think it says more about them than it does me. Paul Boisevert 45 asks if I ever get hit on. Literally never. I started playing guitar at 13 thinking this whole thing would help me in the lady department, but no, completely not the case. So first of all, I work from home and don't really go out in public a whole lot. And when I do, it's usually with my wife and kids. So there's a very clear deterrent there. And in the case when somebody does actually recognize me, chances are it's a 35 to 45-year-old dude. I'll also say, I feel like I have the perfect level of fame. I can go to the grocery store, I can live a totally normal life, and when somebody does recognize me, they always have nice things to say. We have a shared common interest, being guitars, so we always have something that we can talk about right off the bat. Every single interaction I've had with you guys out in the wild has been awesome. Like every single one, I am not exaggerating at all. Nobody wants a picture of me just for the sake of having a picture of me, because nobody outside of this community cares who I am. And so everybody who talks to me genuinely wants to have like a nice, cool discussion. It's awesome. I love when it happens. Thank you guys for being cool. All right, so we got to do this question. Little Chicago asks, how do I avoid the temptation of cheating like other guitar influencers? Okay, so this is a hot button topic. This could probably be a video in itself. What is cheating? AI seems like cheating. That's so new, that's gonna be something that changes over the next number of years. I've never passed off somebody else's music as my own, but this is another thing. Like, where is the line there? I've learned thousands of guitar solos. I've lifted tons of licks that just kind of come out when I play. At what point is that just the thing that everybody's done since the beginning of time? And at what point is that considered cheating? What if I wrote a solo and then played that for you? Not improvised. Is that cool? I feel like most people would say it is, but if I did that same thing on a jazz gig, that would be considered very much uncool. What I'm trying to say is I guess it's not really black or white. The only thing I can really do is tell you my exact process, tell you why I do it, and then you can decide for yourself how you feel about it. And I'll also say, like, this is by no means a secret. I've talked about this exact thing in a number of videos. I did it a couple months ago. So let's talk about specifically for YouTube videos, because this is different on different platforms for me. But with YouTube videos, I use a pretty similar process about 85% of the time. Most of what I do is audio, video separately. So I'll record my guitar part, and that might be alongside a backing track or whatever, and I'll sit down and record that part in whatever way makes the most sense to record that guitar part. And so with a guitar performance, I treat it like I'm in the recording studio, and having worked in a studio, there's a lot of tools that I know how to use to get a performance that I'm proud of. A lot of the time it's one take, it's perfect, it requires minimal editing. Done. My night's gonna be so much easier when that happens. There's other times where I'm just improvising a part, but it's not really coming together. I'm finding things I like in each take, but I'm never getting one all the way through. And what you do in this scenario is what's called a comp. I have all these takes, none of them are perfect, and what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna bring in parts that I like from each one of these takes to make one full take that is a composite. Other times I'm writing and recording piece by piece as I go, and sometimes those pieces might be as small as like one lick. Sometimes it might be I'm getting 3/4 of the solo together and I'm just having to really work that last bit there. If there's some editing I need to do, if I need to move some things over a little bit, if I've recorded the perfect take and then like one note was flubbed, I'll just re-record that note. Some people are purists, I'm not. This is the stuff that is just like commonplace in studio since, I don't know, probably when things got digitized. If you were to show somebody back in the 50s what I was doing, I'm sure someone then would say that this is cheating, but I'm also sure some of them would be like, oh my God, I gotta start doing that too. And there are like these weird arbitrary lines that I draw in my moral compass where it's like, okay, I don't really feel good about doing that. I'm just gonna learn how to play that thing. Like for example, like I've never slowed down a track, played something in, and then sped it up. Actually, this isn't true. There was a gig that I did completely outside of YouTube where the producer had us play everything slowed down a fair bit so that when he sped it up, it was that much more tight. And I was like, okay, if you want to do this, this is totally fine with me. I'm not a purist. Let's go for it. And anytime like I've recorded something and it wasn't good enough for me and I'm like, okay, this is gonna take a ton of editing, I realized like it's just way quicker if I just like practice it a couple times till it is good enough and then play it in. And like if you watch my videos, you probably get it. There's no reason for me to cheat because nothing I do is technically that hard. Like you can probably play a bunch of the stuff that I play. That is not where the value in what I do comes from. My strengths, I think, lie in like note choices, feel, groove, touch, and that thing, like it's just gotta come from a real place. So my guitar track's all done. Let's move along to the video side of things. And again, I want to make sure people know exactly how I do this so nobody can say I'm hiding it. I like to be very transparent about this, but 80 to 90% of the time I'm taking that guitar track and then I'm gonna play along, mime to it, whatever you wanna call it. And so even if what I'm trying to do is record one take top to bottom, the bulk of the time it is just not practical to do video and audio at the same time, and I'll tell you why. Like if you're trying to get the perfect take, sometimes it takes a long time, and when you capture it, it's magical and you can never get it again. If you're also doing the video side of things at the same time, like there's a margin of error there, and if you forget to turn the camera on, or it's out of focus, or it's not where you thought it was, you're back to square one. And I've made every mistake in the book doing this job that I've realized I just need to idiot-proof my life. A lot of the times I like to have different camera angles. I think that kind of stuff looks great. It adds to the production quality. But if I'm doing a ton of takes with a bunch of different cameras, shooting at 4K, and it's taken me an hour to get the perfect one, it's gonna also take me an hour and a half just to transfer that footage onto my computer to edit it for a 30-second clip. I don't like the look of wearing headphones when I'm doing my performances, and if there's a backing track, you kind of need that. Otherwise, you have to be positioned in the right place in your studio to get the speakers, and then that's bleeding through the microphones, and like that's a whole thing as well. And so I tell people, just assume it's like a music video. This thing that I'm showing you in the video, I did that at a prior time with whatever gear or whatever I said I was doing it. I just did these two things separately for the sake of my sanity and for the sake of putting out a product that I think looks as good as it does. I think it's safe to assume with content creation, people like me are showing you a polished, curated version of what we're doing. Be that us doing 1,000 takes and only showing you the best one. Be that taking that take and editing it, shooting the take before, playing along to it. We are showing you what we want you to see. This medium is very different than like a live concert. It's much closer to a studio recording. And like a studio recording, there are some people who can do what they did perfectly live, and there are others who wouldn't be able to perform that live. Now, I can only speak on how I go about things, but when it comes to like a lot of the stuff that I'll put on Instagram, that's where like I'm trying to actually put out something live. And you can see like I often have headphones on, the audio sucks, the video is recorded with my phone. It doesn't look nearly as sharp, but that's like just my relationship with that platform, and I do it differently over there. And then all the stuff that I do at my course platform over the dojo, like that's just off the top of my head, playing it, recording it all at the same time, because it's a different medium. It makes more sense to do it that way over there. I'm gonna tell you one more dirty little secret about this whole thing. If I've got a zit, I'll put on makeup. I'm not above it. It's all coming out today. Bergord asks if I still play for fun or if it's all just for content. So my relationship with music, work, content, all that is a little bit unique, I think, and it's changed since I've been doing this for as long as I have, but it all kind of exists in the same place in my brain. They aren't independent of each other. Now, there are guitars in every room of my house, and I play them and just plunk on them every day a little bit here and there, and that's probably about as much just like pure fun guitar playing as I do. But I also try to sit down and play guitar and get better at guitar for at least an hour every day. And this is kind of independent of content in the sense that I'm not like practicing a part for a video or something like that. And with this hour, I've been basically doing the same thing for years. I'll get really into a genre. Right now it's chicken picking. And so what I will do is I'll find a song with a piece in it that I want to learn. The other day I did Liza Jane by Vince Gill. And so what I'll do is I'll bring that into the Moises.ai app and I'll remove the guitar solo and then just loop that part that the guitar solo exists over and treat that as my backing track. I'll learn the guitar solo note for note and then try to just like jam along with the backing track, playing that guitar solo, and then I'll take it a step further and then try to improvise something over that backing track, just kind of using bits and pieces from the actual solo. And then I'll go completely far away from the solo, just do my own thing over top of that backing track and see what comes out naturally from what I've learned. I've been doing this for years, and because of it, I've grown a lot as a guitar player, and I really enjoy it, but it's not like pure fun. For me, pure fun is when I go golf or play hockey or mess around with my kids. I'd say it fulfills a much more similar role in my life as exercise. I am not necessarily loving every minute when I'm doing it, but I'm very glad when I've done it, and it's kind of gotten to the point where I feel like I need to do it. I do this because I want to stay sharp. I want to feel like I can actually like really play my instrument and that I am still progressing. And all that does tie into the content side of things. Be it ideas I will play in examples, ideas just for videos in general, things that I'm gonna teach in my course platform. And you know, one day I would like to get back into playing live, which was what I did for my job before I started doing YouTube. And right now I feel like I can just jump back in that because I do work on that stuff every day. But if I were to retire from professional music, whatever that looks like, I doubt that I would continue to do that. I would probably spend that time just composing or working on my golf swing or something. I don't know, the relationship with the whole thing for me has evolved a lot through the years, as any relationship does. Cam Guitarman asks, what's the part that I like the least about the influence? And you know it, so this doesn't just turn into me going on a negative rant. I'm also gonna tack on what do I like the most honest about this. Completely honestly, there are a lot of things that I struggle with behind the scenes. And like I said in another question, like I show you a curated version of this whole thing. Like I'm not showing you the tough stuff because that's not what this channel is about. Now, I've also made an active effort to try to improve the things that aren't working with this. And I feel like as of right now, it's all in like a pretty decent place. So the creative output can be fairly exhausting at times. I try to do a video every week. That's kind of what needs to go into this whole thing to keep it all afloat. And there's a certain standard that I've put on myself, be that the content itself, the way that it's filmed, or even the ideas. Like, and that's maybe even the toughest part, is just trying to make something for people that is exciting and interesting and engaging that they probably have hopefully never seen before. And I don't always get there. Like, in my mind, this video, for example, is one of them. This is just me talking to a camera, answering some questions. And like, I feel like if I just did this every week, nobody would want to watch this kind of stuff. So I got to go out there and discover something that is super cool and super exciting that I can make a video on. And when that's flowing and you're excited about everything you're doing, awesome. But when you can't find it, and if I'm sitting there on a Monday starting to make a new video and I just like can't start pushing the ball up the hill, it is a tough place that can quickly compound on itself. And there's other stuff too, like there's an element of loneliness in the whole thing. Like all my work hours are basically spent with me alone by myself in this room. Something really cool has happened in my life, it's basically just been me by myself looking at a computer screen and thinking, oh, great. And the flip side of that is also when anything like bad has happened, it's been me just like figuring it out by myself and knowing that this all falls on my shoulders to get through this thing. It's not just like I'm the captain of the ship, it's just I'm the only person on the boat sometimes, it feels like. And then like I work for an invisible boss, basically the YouTube algorithm. It's like, imagine you're working a job and a lot of time you really do your best effort and then your boss just comes around and says, nope, not good enough. And that's the only feedback that they give you. And you just do this over and over and over and over again. And then every now and then your boss comes by and says, wow, this is perfect. This is absolutely amazing. Gives you a big old raise, doesn't tell you why. And then next time it's back to the no, not good enough thing. It's like, it messes with your head a little bit. Now I've done this long enough to like come to terms with it, realize that just if I have a couple bad videos, it doesn't mean it's all falling off the cliff anymore. And if I have a couple good videos, it doesn't mean it's time to go buy that Lamborghini or anything. But it's still like, it's hard to plan your life around the invisible boss. And I realize this just makes it sound like I completely hate this thing, which is not the case. I'm gonna get to the other side of this in a second, but the last thing I'll mention is that there's just like this weird gray area that my entire life exists in, where I'm kind of never working, but I'm also kind of always working. Like this business really only does as well as what I put into it, and it needs to just like consistently have stuff put into it. And so like, I don't think I've ever really taken a day off, like truly in over a decade. Like I'm always thinking about ideas, thinking about music, thinking about trying to like get better at guitar, thinking about the YouTube algorithm, emails I've getting, like there's always a thing there. And it's very hard for me, and I gotta do a better job of this, of like drawing lines between work and not work. But there's just like so much stuff that I wanna do, and especially with young kids, like there's very little time that I have in the day. Like right now, outside of a weekly golf game, time with my family, nothing really exists in my life outside of this. And that has been what it has taken in order for me to keep this going for as long as I have at the level that I have. And since the studio, it's in the basement of my house, my kids' toys are all right there. There's not a lot of physical barrier either, which can sometimes help you separate that. And that's my rant. I've said my piece. Those are the things that I struggle with. Let's move on to the flip side of this, the stuff that's really awesome about this job. So first of all, this is basically all I've ever wanted in my life. When I was 13, I just got on this path where I fixated on this goal of being able to make a living with a guitar in my hands, creating something that people actually cared about. And for a long time, like this didn't even seem possible, but 24 years later, like I'm very proud of where I got and what I did, and Like that is like something that's really like deeply special to me. And I've had people like come up to me and tell me what my videos have meant to them. And it ranges from, hey, I saw your jellyfish video the other day and I thought it was funny, to, you know, your videos were like a really important part of my life when I was going through some really dark stuff. And to even have had just like a little bit of an effect like that on someone's life, and then to go and look at the numbers and extrapolate, like you have actually had like an impact like that on a lot of people's lives. Like I don't really know how to express what that feels like. Like I know nothing I do is necessary in this world, but it's the color. It's the color that music and TV and art provides. And to feel like you are part of that color for people, it's a really, really, really good feeling. And then on a complete surface level, like there is no other job that I will ever work in the music industry that will provide this comfort of living. And then because of like some of the freedoms that this job provides, I've also been able to be involved in my kids' lives and see them grow up in a way that like just most dads don't get to. Even though it's tough, it's incredibly satisfying to put my heart and my soul into these videos and then just like be able to put them into the world like a week later and see people respond to them and enjoy them. I've had amazing experiences, like too many to list, be it taking my hoser, normie, non-musician buddies and taking them to Spain to write a song and having a beer brewed about that song, to listening to an incredible classical guitar player play one of like the most nicest classical guitars in the world, to being able to see what it looks like when you give someone you don't even know just a guitar as a surprise. It's hard for me right now to like fully grasp that because like I'm too in it. But one day I think I will look back on this whole thing and be like, man, like that was a cool life that I lived. But as long as all this stuff outweighs the bad, which it does, I will just keep on putting these kind of things into the world. Finn Ian MD asks, do you ever wish you were a guitarist in a band or envy other professional guitarists? Not at all. Like, this sucks that this is the reality, but the idea of being a professional guitarist in 2025 is like, it's kind of an outdated concept. And maybe this is just like where I live, this is what I see, but I have yet to meet a guitar player and be like, hey, I want your job instead of mine. And just the nature of like how tastes have evolved. There's just so little money in it. Getting access to any of it is such a grind. It's so competitive. There are so few opportunities. And I would love to bring some live performances back into my life in some respect. Like if I could go on the road and just like do an arena tour for some big artist, like it would be amazing. I have friends who do that job, but to do that like as my main gig, like I would just miss out on so much of my kids' lives that I can't even entertain the idea at this point. And like the money isn't great. It's so hard to get those jobs. Back in my 20s, sure, but at 37, no way. And then as far as like recording session work for other people, man, like I'm wondering if there are even 10 people my age in the entire world who do that for a living. Like sure, there are some older guys who are living off of composition, residuals, legacy gigs, but like I've been around a fair bit and I have yet to meet somebody who is my age who is like doing that now with like any real comfort of living. And even like back in the glory days, 80s, 90s in LA, I know people who have done that and they said it was extraordinarily tough, and some of them do YouTube now and say that this job is way better than the one that they used to have. I'm very aware that this is about as good as my life could have ever turned out. All right, let's do one more here. Ren of Burnout says, would I recommend this career path to others who are potentially interested? It would really depend on the person. There is a trait that I think you need to have in order to be successful doing this. So let's set talent aside. Talent is actually like super common. I went to school for music and there were tons of talented guitar players, a lot of them far more talented than I was. Talent is not what got me where I am. I mean, you have to be good enough, but good enough or even great isn't enough. The audio visual stuff, cameras, editing, that whole thing. I'm not Martin Scorsese here. I'm not Tarantino. Anybody can figure out what I'm doing with the camera. Being able to come up with creative and unique ideas that you can execute at a high caliber, that's not easy, but it's also another one of those things. Like you can train yourself to dig these ideas out of the world and turn them into videos. On-screen charisma, again, you can train yourself to get better at that. You look at the videos that I built my audience on, and like I was terrible in front of a camera. Now, all that stuff, you gotta have that, but it's all attainable. It's actually like not that hard. You just gotta put some time and effort into it. The thing that I think is so hard to come by is the eye of the tiger, the dog, the grit. It's that thing where like they're losing, everything's going wrong, but one guy can just will a win into effect. And every day, no matter what's going on in their life, they bring that same level of compete. And from what I've seen, what I've been through, to do this as a job, you kind of need that stat in your life as high as it can possibly be. And sometimes when the last thing that you want to do is make a YouTube video because your last 5 videos flopped, you just had a big thing with your wife, one of the kids has been screaming all night, nobody's rested, like you just gotta be able to show up and do it again and again and again at the highest level that you possibly can. I find when the ideas are flowing and it's going super well and the algorithm loves you, it's pretty easy, but when all that's flipped over, you still gotta be able to put in the same effort, and it's not easy to do that. I feel like everybody that I've seen who has had success on YouTube, and even like the bulk of people who've just like been successful in the music industry, have had this thing. The good news is, I don't think it's like a genetic thing that you're just either born with or you're not born with. And I'll also just preemptively acknowledge, I'm not a psychologist. I don't know how the mind works. And I realize that everyone's situation is unique and not everybody can go down this road. But for me, I kind of just one day decided that I was this way. I flipped a switch and this little light started to glow. And the more I lived with this mindset, the more I saw these like little small successes start to happen, which is for music, mind you, but the more I saw these things happen, the more this light fed back on itself to the point where it became like a massive glowing orb, a guiding light in my life that I couldn't even flip off if I tried to. And my takeaway is like, I'm not special, I'm not unique, I don't have this God-given talent. There weren't a ton of like lucky breaks along the way, but what I do have is this drive, like this belief in myself. When I want to give up, I just tell myself that I am not that person. I am the person that goes past the breaking point of most, and because I do that, I'm able to get to the other side of these things and see these successes. And so to get back to the original question, if you have that thing, or even if you're just like willing to like try believing it, then yeah, sure, do this job, do anything. You'll find success in whatever you do. But I can't flip that switch for you. I can just tell you that it exists. Ladies and gentlemen, there you have it, guitar influencing exposed. Remember, you can grab my blues, rhythm, and soloing techniques course for only $7 when you use the link in the description. And if you notice, we got some new Sammy G merch, picking up a shirt, sweater, that kind of thing. Always a great way to help support the channel. Until next time, thank you all for watching. Look after yourselves, look after each other, look after the planet. I'm Samurai Guitarist, and I'll see you again soon.